Companies with active and visible executive sponsors are 4 times more likely to achieve project success. If you're a project manager, a manager, or a leader, and you need to get people on board with your idea, you need to understand the special finesse that stakeholder management demands. Today, I'm going to take you by the hand and we're going to do step-by-step change management stakeholder edition. Now, you may not be working on a project, but you might be working on something that looks like one. If you're in the middle of a transition or a transformation and you've got people you need to take along, you have an outcome and a goal, so you have a project. This project plus change plus team equals your change strategy. So let's start with step 1, understanding who your stakeholders are. Stakeholders in change can be a lot of different people. Let's take an example. You've got an internal team working on you with your project. You've got stakeholders internally around you, customers, your suppliers, which either benefit from or are resisting your process change or your transformation that you're working on. This entire ecosystem is your stakeholder list. But of course, there are different levels of stakeholders. There's different importance of stakeholders. And one of those differences and importance is who is the outcome of the thing you're changing really related to, and how do you get them on board with you? But ultimately, the roles you want to take the charge of leading this change and be your cheerleader for change inside your organization is one key executive sponsor. And why is that? Because they provide motivation, they provide focus in the organization, and most of all, they provide money and resources. Without them, you will not get these things. So knowing who's who and who's important to you is essential. Engagement planning is kind of a communication pathway where you're trying to create awareness and then engagement with people to understand what you're trying to do, how it will impact them, how it will benefit them, and how they can help you cheer the team on and actually spread the word across your organization or outside your organization if it's for your customers. Communication tactics. Communication is the act of someone sharing information and someone else accepting that information. If you get a 15-paragraph email, that's not communication. That's just shouting into the wind. So you need to figure out what your tactics are. Who are you going to talk to? How are you going to engage with them? How do they want to be engaged with? And what are you going to say? Explain it clearly and concisely. What exactly is changing? Why does it matter right now? And what does success look like? You're not talking about what the change looks like. You're talking about the end game here. A good way to do this, for example, is storytelling. And I have a whole video on how to create a great storytelling device to communicate your change management. And I'll link that here and below. And I'll also put a link below to all of the information I'm giving you today, including the slides I'm sharing with you, the Stakeholder Strategy Template. It's a format you can follow to create your own roadmap for the future based on your stakeholder needs. So you know who your stakeholders are, you understand how to communicate to them, when to communicate to them, and what to communicate to them. And next, you want to measure the real-world success. First, you start with your project. What are you trying to achieve? What's your outcome? What's your goal? That helps you know the next part. What are you trying to change? And you need a dashboard, some way of understanding the ecosystem of change happening, understanding in this measurement how people actually feel about the change coming. So these pillars are important because when your stakeholder strategy aligns to them, you're going to unlock greater resilience, faster adoption, and measurable results. And those are things you absolutely want to succeed. And that's because you want people to visualize this new environment that's going to be beneficial to them, help them be more successful. Next, assess the organizational readiness. Are people ready to change? Do they want to change? Are they willing to change? Do they understand the change coming? Baselining assessment first. Where are people today? And then measuring over time to see if they are slowly moving toward that change. This is cornerstone to making sure you're taking your community along with you and they're moving through a process of awareness, desire, knowledge, and ability. I've got an article and a video all about this. I'll put a link here so you can check it out. And people don't like to change. So one of the big recommendations I have for you in my step-by-step process is activate coaching sponsors and then have them be the voice of the customer or the voice of the internal user and not only talk positively about the change, but help people take that same arc also. I found this very helpful when I worked for a large bank, and we actually brought in one of the projects we had already done in the past a successful implementation, and the owner of that implementation was the head of HR. And they came in and actually gave speeches to other HR departments that were looking to make the same kind of change. And what that did for us was more than anything we could have said. It was a peer talking about success, driven change, and how it benefited his team. That opened the eyes of everyone. Everyone was ready to listen. That coach stayed with us through the process, and we invented a users group, which I also have a whole video on, to talk about how users can band together to make sure the process is working for them, but also the change that's required is continually being underscored, reiterated, and rewarded. Next, you want to align your change plan with your delivery plan. So as you're delivering whatever that is, which could be a technology, it could be just a business process, it could be a new way of working and roles changes, you need to make sure these things are moving lockstep forward together. Because for instance, if you're making a new computer system, you're going to need to show the users how that new computer system works. So you need to know the timing of when that conversation needs to happen and when the training needs to start. All of this kind of change can move you from alignment finally to adoption, and that's your golden ticket. That's the moment when you've actually achieved success, when people not only understand the change and are behind the change, but adopt it as well. Well, you've made it. So this was my end of my two-part series. If you want to check out the first part of my series, check out this video. And if you want to know more about storytelling, check out this video. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and add a comment below to tell me what you thought was useful about my change management strategy. And I'll see you next time on ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Bye-bye, everybody.